Welcome to Passion and Purpose with Pamela, celebrating all things woman. I'm Dr. Pamela Hardy Shepherd, here to ignite inspiration through conversations that spotlight women's power and their journeys. Let's share our light, our stories, and create a space of celebration for every woman. Here's to embracing our womanhood together. Welcome to Passion and Purpose with Pamela. And before we get started today, I wanted to lean in for a moment because today's conversation is one that I believe will speak to so many of you. We're going to explore the power of your story, the lessons hidden in your journey, and how those experiences can be transformed into something meaningful, not just for you, but for others as well. So today we welcome Professor Bonita Bryant to the floor. So we're so pleased that you're here. So Professor Bryant, Professor Bryant, what in your life led you to this work? And it's such extraordinary work. What's the story behind your passion?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you again for having me on your podcast. I think this is my third time, so I should be a pro at this, but I'm still not. I'm working on it.
That's
But
okay.
yes,
This is great.
yeah. But yeah, I think the main thing that got me started with teaching and then faculty work and then love for others is that I've always just been someone who wanted to help other people. I knew that becoming a teacher would help me help other people. I knew back in the day when I had my own little computer business, it allowed me to help other people. That has been the theme throughout my entire life is what can I do to help others strive to gain whatever their goals are or figure out their passion. That's why I love your topic, because your passion and your purpose can be two different things. You have a passion in the beginning of your life that maybe look like one thing, and then you get older and you're like, but is that real my purpose that I was put on this earth to do? So again, working from UCLA to USC to University of Phoenix to ITT Tech, I have done it all in terms
Wow.
of that arena. And now that I'm retired full-time as a full-time employee at a university, I still teach. And so my goal now was to figure out how do I take all that stuff I've learned and put it into a nice little package where I can really focus on how can I get across what's in Benita's heart without the restrictions that I used to have placed on me
Mm.
working in the corporate environment.
Exactly, exactly. And this is so powerful because when you think about all the AI and all the things, how things have come forward today, your ability to help people, because we both know how excuse me, how we were teaching before, but today it's a new day. And so if you could share some of those things that you have begun to do. I know you have this beautiful website and it helps educators. And if you could tell us a little bit about that before I ask you to venture off into something else.
Um, sure. So I decided to there. Um, looks so much better. Anyway, the new book that I created, it's called The Engagement Blueprint, a jazz-inspired guide to faculty focus. I wanted to figure out how I could again continue on my journey. So retirement meant freedom and flexibility, and so I literally purchased the designer application which allows you to create ebooks and flip books and PDFs and all these different things. And I had seen that commercial for 5 years. I had watched designer commercials and I was like, no, they're not going to get me. I'm not going to pay no money for that. Da, 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 da. Boy, when I tell you that when I paid the money and figured out how to use their service, that birthed this new book that I created. The book allowed me to still target the people who I am passionate about. So faculty, because my previous job was coaching faculty, getting
Mhm.
them to follow the guidelines of the university. Now, my book focuses on faculty members who are struggling in the adjunct faculty space. They don't make a lot of money. They put in a lot of hours. They have time management restraints based on their family and maybe elder care, all of these different things. So the
Mm.
book is about how can you use time management skills to help you still be an amazing associate faculty member? How can you use AI to assist you with um, your classroom endeavors? But also, the book is not just for faculty, it is for people who have the desire to go out there and just create something amazing based on their journey. What is it that you've done in your lifetime that could be beneficial to someone else?
Mm.
Sharing, you and I, we do it all the time.
All the
We
time.
share our experiences, we share what we've learned, we share the ups and the downs and the bads and the good parts of life. So I decided to put that into a book. And what I did is I just used every AI skill and tool that I had learned over the last 3, 4 years, and then combined that with my love of jazz. And
Oh,
so the jazz piece came into play because when I am teaching, I have jazz playing in the background. I keep jazz playing in the background because it soothes me and it relaxes me and it allows me to focus. And I thought, if that's really your passion to be calm while you're doing your work, then why not tell people that? Share that. So in my class that I teach now, or the classes, I ask my students, what is your favorite genre of music? And they send me a clip or a YouTube video of their music, right? And that is like a way to do an icebreaker in the classroom. And it
wow.
has become very popular because what they do is like, oh, okay, I can see Professor Bryant as someone else, not just this person who's going to give me either an A or an F in the classroom. And so that's been a fun part. But that book allowed me to do things like that. So in my book, you can actually click on a video and you can hear jazz playing as you're reading the book. You
Wow.
can see the actual video of the clip that I created. So Designer allows you to do something called a live ebook and a live flip book. And it literally lets you play the video inside the book. So you're not
Oh,
going off to another another application
another,
site.
that's
You
right.
click it and you see the video right there. And when I saw that, I was like, oh boy, that's it. They didn't unleash the beast in Bonita because my mind, Pamela, as you know, it goes 24/7. It never
It does.
stops.
No, you know what? One of the things you said is that we share, and it was actually Professor Bryant who was telling me how to do my book because I kept telling her, I can't do these characters. I can't, Pamela, you just have to write the prompt a certain way. And I was like, I wasn't patient, but it was
Yeah.
because of her inspiration and her talking to me that I was able to do it. But initially I was like, I can't do this. So to her point, I mean, she does that with her students, but she also does it with people like me and people like you. You know, when you talk about the flip book, because many people may not know what that is, if you could share just a little bit what that is.
Okay. So a flip book is for anybody who owns an Audible account and they like to do Audible reading and they just go to a book that has the audio version of the book,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that turned out to be a great thing for people like me. Can't see that well anymore, right? So you can listen to the book. Oh my God, that turned out to be something really great for me. And I didn't realize how bad my eyes were getting at one point. So I'm like, ooh, Audible. Okay, let me join that platform. And that allowed me to read Michelle Obama's book, for example,
Mm-hmm.
Steve Harvey's book, and I could listen to it. So the flip book idea, and this is called a live flip book, the one that I created. The flip book is basically an Audible book that you
Mm-hmm.
can literally, when you click on each page, it'll say swish, swish, as
Uh,
if you're reading the book. So it's more of a comfort thing for people who miss that paper version of a book. You know how you turn those pages,
Hmm.
you earmark it and you put your little thumb on the in the corners and that makes you feel good because you're going through the book. So the flip book gives you kind of like that comfort and it just flips. The other part of a flip book is you can click on the table of contents and it will take you to that section of the book that you're
Wow.
looking for. So it's an interactive book that gives you just lots of flexibility. But I see it for especially students who have learning disabilities or
Hmm.
have any kind of impediment that's keeping them from, maybe enjoying the process of a
That's
book.
right.
A flip book will allow them to do that because I have videos throughout it. I have tutorials throughout it. They can click on a video, they can pause that video, they can listen to the lesson. I give them little questions in between. How did this make you feel after you read this chapter? How
Mm.
can you, incorporate this in your world? So that's what a flip book does. It just gives you a lot of flexibility.
And see, I love that because it gives different ways of learning. I'm a very visual person, but I'm
Yeah,
also auditory. And
yeah,
so, like, and then it gives you the hands on. And I mean,
yeah,
that is so incredible because, as you know, when we were coming up, whatever the teacher style was, that's how we had to learn. And
yeah.
that was not going to work with somebody who's a visual auditory learner or somebody who needs hands on. So I love that. And so not only could that be something for in the classroom, but for regular people, you know.
Yes,
Oh my
yes.
goodness, this is awesome. Are you guys listening to this? I,
Examples that I put into my little script that I was doing was basically some questions for, the experience. It's called experience to expression. I could share some of the examples of questions that I would
okay,
ask the person who read the
that's good.
book.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, for example, one of the things that I try to do is figure out how people can express themselves, right? So, for example, you have a story that does not have to be perfect. It just has to be honest. So, what would happen if you were to give yourself permission to share that?
Mm.
um, that would be how I would start. If someone read my book and they said, "Oh, how did you go about coming up with this idea? What is it that you could have done? What did you do to do that?" I would ask them to ask themselves that question. A lot of people have these ideas in their head, but they don't jot them down. They don't go forward with them. They don't share it with anyone else. So, again, how would you go about giving yourself permission to share your journey? You'd be surprised how many people would be like, "Oh, okay, that's so interesting." So, that is an example of what I would look for after someone came out of the book. And there's little small questions like that as you go through the book that has the questions is I call them little stopping points, if you will. Chapter one, they go through chapter one and two, but then they stop. And I say, okay, let's
Mm.
pause. How did you reflect on what you just read?
I
I
love
hope
that
that answered the
because
question.
no, because actually you just answered my question. Why do people hesitate to share their stories?
Yeah.
Because they don't have a way. And so you actually shared an incredible way that they can tell their stories. You
Mhm.
created, and I also want to mention that you created the engagement blueprint. And what is the core idea behind that for your students?
So the engagement blueprint came about because I was looking at different ways to interact with students. It actually started from interacting with faculty members in my previous role. And so I had to take that to another level and say, okay, engagement with my students, how can that be different? How can that allow me to tap into my students who will tell me up front, I have dyslexia.
Mm.
um, I have a problem with retaining information. So I take all those key factors that they give me when they send me an introduction, and I make a little comment library for myself saying, okay, this student told me they need maybe some additional support here. So the way I engage with everybody is going to be a little different. So I created videos within my announcement that will allow them to have a bird's eye view of the instruction portion of that module. So the video is no more than 2 to 3 minutes long, and it
Mhm.
gives them step-by-step instructions in a very compact way, and I'm hoping that that will help them pause that video, go to the section that I'm referring to, come back to the video, play it a little bit more. Oh, okay, that's what she's trying to tell me. And then I always end it with, you can always reach out to me, and I put my email down there. So the engagement blueprint is basically a way to figure out how do you interact with multiple students,
Students.
and not just students. I mean, in life, you have to figure out how to engage with a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. So, how do you go about doing that? And it starts with listening. It starts with paying attention. A person can tell you up front they struggle with XYZ. Okay, so
Mhm.
don't take that for granted. If they tell you that they struggle with auditory because they can't hear very well, then you make sure you put some kind of visual product in front of them so they can feel part of the process.
Oh my goodness. I mean, this is so powerful because as you're speaking, I'm going all the way back to grade school, thinking, I wish we had that. And I think more instructors, more teachers, more professors are doing that. But you are leading the way to help, especially associate faculty who don't get all of the extras, all the extra training and
Yeah,
everything. And you're showing them how to help their students to learn and retain. And I think that is so powerful. When we, especially as we get older, there's a lot of times I have to go back and listen to my Audible 4 times so that I can remember what they're saying. And then sometimes I have the same book in Audible so that
yeah,
I can make notes in the book. But it
yeah,
is about retaining what you learn. And I love what you're
yeah,
doing. So, one of the things I wanted to ask you is what is the biggest thing that holds people back from using their voice and how do they push past it?
yeah. So I think it's fear more than anything
Mm.
else. It's fear. A lot of people, myself included, every time we get ready to do this podcast, I tell you how I feel. I tell you how I get butterflies. Now, mind you, you and I talk on the phone all the time for over 9 years. I mean,
Yes,
it's not like, we don't know each other. We know each other
we
very well.
know each
But
other.
how come as soon as you invited me to attend the podcast, I'm like, oh, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to do? And then you tell me, Benita, as soon as I say go, you just relax. And it's true. I think with other people, they have the same kind of situation, right? They wonder or they feel bad about what if somebody says something about what I just presented?
Mhm.
They might not like it. Okay, guess what? That's perfectly fine. If you never start something, you will never understand what that outcome will be.
That is so true.
And that's one thing that I don't have fear about. I will start a bunch of stuff.
Yes, you
I don't care. I will start it. I was like, no, that didn't work out too good. Oh, okay, I like that. No, okay, I could, work on that. So with writing books, that took some time to learn the process, right? With anything else. So if you have a story and you want to get it out there, I would say start with a journal. I'm a journal person. So
Mhm.
you start with a journal, you write down things throughout your life, and then you take the journal and then start really crafting some paragraphs. Start with one paragraph at a time. And then that way, and then share it with someone you love. Share it with someone that you feel, comfortable
Trust.
with. My
Yes.
husband is that person who is like, okay, babe, I got this idea. And he will read the whole thing and then he'll come back. But of course, he says, oh, that sounds really good. He'll say that all the time. My sister, on the other hand, I will give it to her, and then she might have a little critique, but nothing major. So you do that. You share it with people who you feel comfortable with, and then you just keep moving on. And you never worry about the outcome of another person's perspective, because at the end of the day, that really doesn't matter. It's about you and your voice and how you want to get it out there.
Exactly. Okay. Wow, there are so many things. I know our time is limited, and I want to make sure that I get everything in here because you said some things that are very, very important. And it was like telling your story and the importance of having someone that you trust to read it. And an example of that was, as you know, my dog passed away and I was
Yeah.
dealing with that grief. And I was writing things down. You said like a journal, and I was just writing them down. It wasn't about a book. It was about how do I keep this dog that has been in my life for 17 years, how do I keep him alive?
Right.
And that's how it ended up being a book. So this is like great for not only us, the people who are not teaching, but for the students who want to learn what to do. So
Mhm.
I would say, if you had anything to tell people, what would it be?
Well, I would say, just piggybacking off our last conversation, I have another set of little notes that I was looking at last night, and it talks about bridging your book's purpose. So that's really a key, right? If you're trying to figure out what it is you want to do, what is your purpose? What is it, what is the reason? And there's just a way that you can go about that. You can say, for example, this is exactly why I created this guide. You start off with that in a book if you create a book, or you can start off in your journal. This is the reason why I created this particular concept, right? And it's not just to support your teaching or mentoring, because you could be mentoring someone else. There's so many different ways that this can go, but it's also to remind people that you have an experience that holds value, right? And that you want to make sure that you can transform that into something meaningful to others. And that was like truly when I read that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So I would just say to everyone out there, whatever your purpose is in life, whatever it is, put it out there, go for it, feel good with it, at peace, say a prayer, and then just roll it out. You would be surprised. For example, like your book about Quincy, you have had the most amazing compliments about that book. And I didn't get to meet Quincy in person. I hate that, but I knew of Quincy over the years that I've known you. And I remember you walking that dog in the mornings, and that's how you got your exercise and all of that. And Quincy was like a family member. Well, someone could have something very similar. It could be a dog, a cat, or it could be a child. You
That's
know,
right.
loss is deep and it runs a lot of gamuts, but share that information because it's also cathartic. That word
Yes.
is
Yes.
cathartic at the same time. So I would just say, do what you have to do to get yourself self-care. That's one of the other books that I've written in the past, self-care. Figure out your self-care process. A book
Mm.
is a huge way to get yourself on the right track to get your self-care in perspective, in check, and using that journal. And then you'd be surprised when you're finished and you publish that book or you share that book with someone. Now you're able to see that feedback, and that feedback will make your just smiles, just give you that. It's like giving someone a hug, right?
Mhm.
Feedback can give someone a warm hug, and I like hugging.
Awesome. That Professor, thank you so much for being here today. And I'm going to ask you to come back and let's do a part two to this because I think there's so much more that people can get from what you're telling them. And let's do a part two.
Yes, definitely. Anytime, anytime.
Thank you so much. Have a blessed day. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.